Oh, good heavens! I must say, after a night round the world, refueling on several dozen boxes of Sugar Cookie Toast Crunch makes me want to say some of my gamer words. Mrs. Claus, remind me, if they ever discontinue the cereal again, I shall have to murk a hoe. Oh! Oh! Oh, my, I was not expecting you this early. Very well, let's get straight to it, shall we? I know. You'll want to know where your guildmaster is, and I'm sure he'll be in touch with you soon. In the meantime, he has asked old Saint Nick to read you a story called The Heart of the World, an excerpt from the Monomyth. And of course, I do owe him for the time that he saved my sleigh from Santa-denying bro-mages and single-handedly rescued Christmas. But why the Monomyth, you might ask? Well, it occurs to me that there are a wide variety of perspectives on what exactly the meaning of Christmas is. A pagan holiday, a glorification of consumerism, a celebration of the Christ's birth. Now, I know, we're all gamers here, and as such we may occupy a wide range of positions on the spectrum of religiosity. But I think this story you'll find interesting. Much like the story of Christ, this is a tale of a divine who lowered himself to the realm of the mundane in an attempt to save his people. War is waged against a great evil. Sacrifices are made along the way. But eventually there is an ascension back into the clouds that one day his people might follow in his footsteps. And I'm not talking about Talos. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass of pre-workout eggnog, preferably the high-protein, macro-friendly variant offered by your very own culinary guild, and open your hearts. I'm St. Nicholas, this is Muscle in Magica, and you, my friends, just accepted a quest. I've always wanted to say that.
Anew encompassed and encompasses all things. So that he might know himself, he created auri-el, his soul, and the soul of all things. Auri-el, as all souls, was given to self-reflection, and for this he needed to differentiate between his forms, attributes, and intellects. Thus was born Sithis, who was the sum of all the limitations Auri-el would utilize to ponder himself. Auri-el, who was the soul of all things, therefore became many things, and this interplay was, and is, the Aurbis. At first the Aurbis was turbulent and confusing, as Auri-el's ruminations went on without design. Aspects of the Aurbis then asked for a schedule to follow, or procedures whereby they might enjoy themselves a little longer outside of perfect knowledge. So that he might know himself this way too, Anu created auri-el, the soul of his soul. Auri-el bled through the Aurbis as a new force called time. With time, various aspects of the Aurbis began to understand their natures and limitations. They took names like Magnus, or Mara, or Zen. One of these, Lorcan, was more of a limit than a nature, so he could never last long anywhere. As he entered every aspect of auri-el, Lorcan would plant an idea that was almost wholly based on limitation. He outlined a plan to create a soul for the Aurbis, a place where the aspects of aspects might even be allowed to self-reflect. He gained many followers. Even auri-el, when told he would become the king of the new world, agreed to help Lorcan. So, they created the Mundus, where their own aspects might live and become the Et Ada. But this was a trick, as Lorcan knew. This world contained more limitations than not, and was therefore hardly a thing of Anu at all. Mundus was the house of Sithis. As their aspects began to die off, many of the Et Ada vanished completely. Some escaped, like Magnus, and that is why there are no limitations to magic. Others, like Ifre, transformed themselves into the Elnophe, the Earthbones, so that the whole world might not die. Some had to marry and make children just to last. Each generation was weaker than the last, and soon there were Aldmer. Darkness caved in. Lord Khan made armies out of the weakest souls and named them men, and they brought Sithis into every quarter. Auri-el pleaded with Anu to take them back, but he had already filled their places with something else. But his soul was gentler, and granted Auri-el his bow and shield, so that he might save the Aldmer from the hordes of men. Some had already fallen, like the Chimer, who listened to tainted Edada, and others, like the Bosmer, had soiled Time's line by taking mannish wives. Auri-el could not save Altmora, the Elder Wood, and it was lost to men. They were chased south and east to Old Elnophe, and Lord Khan was close behind. He shattered that land into many. Finally, Trinimac, Auri-el's greatest knight, knocked Lord Khan down in front of his army and reached in with more than hands to take his heart. He was undone. The men dragged Lord Khan's body away and swore blood vengeance on the heirs of Auri-el for all time. But when Trinimac and Auri-el tried to destroy the heart of Lord Khan, it laughed at them. It said, "This heart is the heart of the world, for one was made to satisfy the other." So Auri-el fastened the thing to an arrow and let it fly long into the sea, where no aspect of the new world may ever find it. Auri-el, the soul of Anuiel, who in turn is the soul of Anu, the Everything. In his only known moment of weakness, he agreed to take his part in the creation of the mortal plane, that act which forever sundered the elves from the spirit worlds of eternity. To make up for it, Auri-el led the original Aldmer against the armies of Lord Khan in mythic times, vanquishing that tyrant and establishing the first kingdoms of the Altmer, Altmora and Old Elnophe. When his work was finished, he then ascended to heaven, in full observance of his followers, so that they might learn the steps needed to escape the mortal plane.